Gentlemen, thank you. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Wednesday, March 16th, 2022, 6:30 p.m. Zoom virtual meeting of the Cohasset Planning Board. For those of you,
Paul Caleri is listed as an attendee. I don't know.
Yeah, we're going to get that all set up, and it's really nice to see Paul too as well.
Lauren, you got me as a panelist. Jeez.
See, it always gets hung up on you. I don't know why. I'm sorry.
These computers, I got to tell you, you're something else.
My other computer just crashed. It's still loading over there.
Well, thanks for getting me in.
So I can't see everybody.
Somebody did their hair different.
Oh, there we go. All right. So now I can see everyone. So let me begin by asking Lauren Lind, our planning director, if she would please indicate to the public how they can participate in the meeting.
Sure. I'm sorry. I may have missed it, but I don't believe you called the meeting to order yet.
No, I didn't. I was going to do that first, what I just did first, but that's fine. So I'd like to call the meeting to order and do a roll call. Clark Brewer.
Clark Brewer here.
Tom Callahan.
I am here.
Paul Caleri.
Paul Caleri here.
Thank you. Paul Grady.
Paul Grady here.
Eric Potter.
Eric Potter here.
Amy Glassmeyer here. Thank you. Lauren, can you please indicate to the public how they can participate in the meeting?
Absolutely. Thank you. So for items on the agenda, if you wish to address the board, we ask that you use the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. Insert your name and address there. You can either leave written comments or indicate that you'd like to address the board for a particular topic on the agenda. At the time that's appropriate, we'll promote you if you've asked to speak, and you can use your microphone and camera. We ask that you please state your name and address for the record at that time again. Please keep your comments to no more than 3 minutes and try not to be repetitive for items that have already been commented on. Direct all questions to the chair, who will ask the appropriate person to respond. I'll turn it back to the chair now. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to also introduce Ms. Carolyn Murray, who is our legal counsel from KP Law. Is Angela taking minutes tonight, Lauren?
She will be, yes. She may not be here, but we have the recording here, so she'll be able to take it.
So I just wanted to acknowledge Angela Giso, who is going to be taking the notes. So tonight's business, we have 2 items: an A&R application, approval not required under the subdivision control law, 26 Lambert Lane, number 1028. This is a continuation. And then we have 645, a common driveway application for 26 Lambert's Lane. Mr. John Orman is the owner of is the applicant and owner of the property. Is Mr. Orman here?
I am promoting Mr. Orman, Alpenstone, and as well as Rod, his associate. These are part of his engineering team.
All right.
Did you say Rod?
Yes.
Huh.
All right, thank you. Who will be speaking, please?
Yeah, John Ormond is here. Thank you.
And Mr. Orman, will you be the member of your team making the presentation?
It depends on the question. We have expertise in different areas. We have a surveyor here and an engineer as well.
All right. So let me begin by asking, do you have the information that was requested of you the last time we met?
Yes, I do. We updated the plans and we made a lot of changes, and we sent that along to Lauren last week. We have that here. If you want to go over it today, I can bring it up and we can start going over it.
Could you please refresh what were the items that we were of concern about the last time we met?
Yes, just the fire, like the standard Massachusetts fire code doesn't require a turnaround for a driveway that's less than 150 feet, and Cohasset adopted that fire code. So we felt when we first drafted the first plan.
Excuse me, Mr. Orman, would you start first with the discussion of the A&R application?
Okay, sure. The A&R application, I don't know what was required, but I think there was more definition around the road.
Mr. Orman, may I refresh your memory? There was a concern about the property lines.
Yes, yeah, we confirmed that. We detailed the property lines in more detail, and we had a survey of that area in detail for the road and the property lines. And Rod is our surveyor, Roderick Frandino. He's online and he can go over his survey of that area right now if that's our first question this evening.
Well, it's not really a question. I just wanted to make sure that
Okay.
what you were presenting tonight was information that we requested of you in particular, and then we could continue the conversation.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, yes, that information is provided this evening.
But I guess I'm asking you, do you have a list of the things that we asked you?
Yes, I do. I sent that in a letter last on Sunday night. I don't know if you had the letter, but everything was detailed on an 8-page letter and with an explanation of each section and how each question was satisfied on the plans. Did you get a chance to read that letter?
I did read that that letter.
Okay.
So please begin, but recognize that what we're looking for initially is the response to the questions that we left the meeting with last time.
Okay, of course, yeah. So that's that, and I thought I brought that out in the letter too, that we addressed everything on your concerns. But I guess what we'd like to do is we'd like to go over the A&R then, and we'll go over, Rod can talk to Rod. Specifically, there were questions about the right of way in the public road and delineation between the neighbor's property, the public road, our property and the public road, and who owns that wide space between our property on the right side and the public road. And Rod was out there 2 weeks ago. He did a full survey and Rod is here now and he can speak to this. Rod?
Thank you. So let me just say that the first item that your colleague is going to speak about, what we requested of you is that we have a completed map that included all the details necessary for us to be able to understand the property.
Yes, and Rod can speak to that right now. Correct. Yes. And did you receive the copy of the plans that we sent along, the updated plans? If you look down there, we labeled each segment of property that was unclear. Rod was detailed who owned each piece.
Right,
March 14th,
Mr. Orman?
2022 is the most recent version of the A&R plan. That was emailed to the board members this afternoon.
Oh, good. Okay, so there's the A&R.
Yes, but let me make a point, which is that we have informed you that the planning board's policy is that we are not expected to have absorbed information that we do not receive a week in advance. So additional information that you have is not going to be something we can react to because we haven't been able to see it with sufficient time. That's why I'm focusing on the items that you were to bring back to us specifically, because those were items that we had been exposed to. And that's why your colleague can certainly speak to a better configured map, because that was one of the primary issues that we raised. Okay,
great. Yeah, so Rod, go ahead. Did you want to bring up a picture of the map, Lauren? Can we bring up a picture of it?
You should have the ability to screen share. Actually, hold on. Now you should.
Do you want to do Rod or I'll?
The boundary survey was completed several months ago. Nothing's changed with the boundary. Do you hear me and see me, or?
I can hear you. I can't see anything.
Oh.
Can you see it now?
No, I don't see anything.
Yes, it's there.
Yes,
I see a plan.
we can see the screen sharing.
Okay, now we can see it.
Okay, that is the common drive plan right there. That is not the A&R.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll bring that up. Give me 1 second.
And the A&R is behind it. It's behind
Yeah, I got it.
And
Okay. So
nothing's changed.
well, nothing has changed other than the fact that we've contacted the town, and the town is well aware of the easement that they have by prescription, which means the easement's been used over 20 years. It's a traveled way, and they have rights over it. And as far as the property line goes, yes, that's where it ends. But the only interest that John has in that is the fact that the public has rights over it. And he owns the bed of the road up to those points, but the public has rights and the public has interest in that. There's no the only issue is a matter of maintenance that the public needs to define. And that is what we appealed to the engineer of the town and Brian, I think is his name, and he is in the midst of establishing a maintenance right of way. But so that's, as far as ownership, it's not a matter of ownership, it's a matter of rights of passage. And that's what the public has, and it hasn't changed in probably 40 years.
But in an A&R, the issue is your frontage on a way, on an acceptable way, and Lot 4 certainly doesn't have it, and it does not appear that Lot 3 has it either. And so nothing has changed, and my understanding is that there is, allegedly the town says it took this as a public road, so nobody owns it other than the town. And the layout, if the town took it as a public road, there'd be a layout. I understand it was done almost 100 years ago, and nobody can find it. So I don't know where Lambert's Lane's layout is relative to your property lines, but clearly from what you're showing me here, neither Lot 3 nor Lot 4 have 50 foot of frontage on Lambert's Lane.
Yeah, it's very clear.
No, it's not clear, sir.
Let me interject, please, and ask our legal counsel to provide some insights here. Ms. Murray.
Certainly. Thank you, Madam Chair. I spoke with a number of town officials on Monday to go over some of their concerns about this. And I really think that everything begins and ends really with this A&R plan. I know there are other discussions going on as well, but the DPW director does not have a copy of the layout. There is a reference to a 1913 layout plan. We have searched Registry of Deeds records. We have found plans for Lambert's Lane. We have found references to plans going back prior to 1913, but we have not yet located the 1913 layout. And as Mr. Callahan was just saying, if the town actually did take it as a town way, there should be a layout. The other thing that comes to mind, and this goes more to Mr. Callahan's point, which is there's Lambert's Lane, which may be accepted as a town way or may not, or may just be a way that is open to the public, as the surveyor was just alluding to. I don't think we're disputing that Lambert's Lane is either public or is a way that has been open and used by the public. The question really becomes a matter of frontage. And looking at this plan, you have at least the traveled portion of Lambert's Lane shown on the plan, but then you have a gap between what is ostensibly the layout of Lambert's Lane and the actual property lines to lots 3 and lots 4. And yes, there is a town of Cohasset right of way that's indicated on this plan. It's possible that if the town actually accepted Lambert's Lane as a right of way, it is possible that the town accepted a wider layout, but never actually constructed the wider layout. And I want to emphasize here, I am just speculating because we don't have anything to support that at the moment. Or it could be that the town of Cohasset owns this sliver of land between Lambert's Lane and between the edges of lots 3 and 4 by some other means. I also see coming into this, the property on the other side of lot 4, owned now or formerly by Francesco, which also comes down somewhere. Can't exactly tell where there's no defining line for that coming down to either the town's right of way or coming down to Lambert's Lane. But it is also possible that, there is a connection there for Francesco, that property as well. All of that said, in chatting with my real estate colleague this afternoon, who was searching through the registry records, our recommendation is that before the planning board can endorse this plan as presented, we need to determine that lots 3 and 4 do in fact have frontage along the way. And in order to do that, we would have to do a title search as to these properties to determine what is this town of Cohasset land? What is this? Is it in fact a right of way? Is it something else? And also looking at where the title to the Francesco property coming down to Lambert's Lane. And I think once that information is provided, we would be able to not just speculate, but be able to give you something more definitive as to whether or not these lots do in fact have frontage on Lambert's Lane.
Well, how come?
That's not for the town to do.
Typically, Mr. Callahan, you're absolutely right that is not the burden of the town. That is the burden of the applicant to provide that information for us to review.
So wait, Rod, I guess you can opine on that. So then if the town hasn't used it, then we can basically assume that if by eminent domain we could use it, or we could.
No.
I never said anything about eminent domain, sir. Yeah. And there is no eminent domain against town of Cohasset property.
Oh, then you do own it.
I did not say that at all.
Okay.
I just said we don't know. Tell you on your
who owns
your
it?
plan.
It's either the town or me, right? So
there could be a third party. I don't know.
Well,
John, wait a minute. Okay. What they said is they need a title search.
Okay.
What I have is records from the 40s that show that that's Lambert's Lane. And even though it guts into areas off the paved way, my records show is that it's Lambert's Lane, it's public property. But they want to see where that originated, which is a title search. So, because it is a unusual configuration for sure. Looks like the town or whoever came through and made that away and disregarded lot lines. It's not unusual. I mean, these things happen. As far as a title search, okay, if that's what we need to do, then, that's what the town's requiring. I'm not a legal entity myself, but I do title searches on lots. I haven't typically done it on public properties, but this is all part of the, I can understand what they're looking for, but the records that I show public frontage. But if we need to dig farther, we can dig farther. If that's, we want to.
You have that now? Can you bring that up and show it to the board?
What's that?
Do you have that title? Do you have it on your file directory?
I have a 1949 map.
Yeah, bring that up because that's probably all the board needs, correct?
No.
Okay.
No. Title search is deeds. Has to do with deeds. The maps are based on deeds. Surveys are based on, the deed. So what we're looking for is a deed is what we're looking for.
Mr. Potter, would you like to make a comment?
Well, I guess I'm looking for clarification because I wasn't at the last meeting, but it seems as if by looking at this that the thing to clarify, there's the Lambert's line, which is outlined in red. Is that correct?
Yes.
On this plan, and then there's lots 3 and 4, which are in blue, and then there's this gap area, right? Is that correct? Where we don't know whether that's Lambert's Lane or not, or what exactly is that? Is that what's going on?
Yes,
correct.
You're absolutely correct.
Okay. All right. I think it makes total sense then. I mean, you just got to do it. You got to have a title examiner do a title search and figure that out. I mean, that seems to be the answer.
Yes.
Yeah, we were. If we'd known that, we would have done that last week. That's fine.
Well,
we can do that. Yep.
Yeah. So the town.
What's shown in red is
Wait. We've got multiple people speaking.
What's shown in red is what's paved, and it doesn't indicate. There's nothing on here that indicates what the actual legal right of way is, whether it's 40 feet or variable. And there should be an original layout of Lambert's Lane in the Registry of Deeds in the plan section that all these lots take frontage off of. So a title search and review of all the relevant plans at the registry should be the thing that solves this mystery.
Yeah, thank you.
Would not, excuse me, would not an assessor's map provide some information here? Commonly, they show the width of the
Only
road.
anecdotal information is on the assessor's map. Anecdotal.
Then what good is it?
It's good for taking tax money. I think that's what it's good for.
You cannot rely on assessor's maps in legal proceedings.
Okay, so Ms. Murray, could you make a recommendation, please?
My recommendation would be that the applicant agree to a further extension of time for the board to act on the A&R plan, to allow the time for the title search to be conducted and that information to be provided to my office before the planning board, so we can also review it before the planning board's continued public hearing on this.
Fair enough. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And please also include the week that we need to be able to review the material. So if it goes to our legal counsel, then we will still be in a position to need a week to be able to review the information. We all have jobs, and so we need that time. So thank you for agreeing to do that. So are you willing to give us additional time to be able?
Of course, yes.
All right. So Ms. Lind, could you please indicate when the next time would be for this to be brought before us?
Just a question, actually, before I suggest a date to continue this so that we can extend the timeline appropriately, I would ask approximately how long we anticipate this would take.
Rod, how long? Can you turn it around this week, Rod?
If you can't find you have to go to the Registry of Deeds Engineering Department in Dedham, and you have to go down there.
I can't hear you.
In that basement and find the layout of this road, and that might not be easy.
Can I recommend? I think you should do it 30 days.
Based on experience, it might not be easy.
Right. Just a minute, Mr. Potter, who is a lawyer and deals with these items, suggests that it's going to be something we should outline in 30-day periods.
Well, yeah, I just say that because you really want to have a title examiner do it, because they're going to get you the proper abstract, and that might take a couple of weeks, and then you have to submit it to us. So just to give yourself the right amount of time, I think you're looking at a minimum of 3 to 4 weeks. Nothing longer than that, but that's realistic timeframes.
I think Rod has it already, though. Rod, do you have it?
No, I do not.
No, he doesn't.
Okay.
I'm not a title searcher here in the state of Massachusetts.
So, Madam Chair, may I make a suggestion?
Please.
So then what I would suggest is that we plan to take this conversation back up at our April 13th meeting. And at that time, we can reassess if more time is necessary.
All right. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Orman.
Thank you.
Mr. Orman, are you in agreement to sign another continuance agreement so that we can continue this discussion on April 13th?
Yes. My question is, so when do you need the title search completed by? Is it 1 week before that, April 6th?
Well, it needs to go to our lawyer. They have to look at that. So that would probably be not knowing what their schedules are like. They may need a week and we will need a week.
Can you commit to that though? Can the lawyer commit to that 1 week period? Because we submitted something a month ago and we didn't get any answer back. We tried to work with you on this on March 4th. Rod sent a letter.
Yeah.
So we didn't get any response back at all. And that's probably why we're here again.
You've submitted multiple iterations of plan sets, so it's really
no. Rod sent a letter.
The onus on the town. This has been the town has been acting in due course of action. But the more you continue to submit new and revised information, the longer this process will take.
Yeah, that's a different subject. This subject is the working out the lot lines, and Rod wrote a nice letter trying to work that out with the lawyer or the DPW, and we didn't get a response.
It was not a letter. It was not sufficient information. What we really need is the title search done here.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you have more questions, like if we send you a letter and you have more questions, can you respond to us at least so we don't have to wait a month?
Mr. Orman, I think everybody's responded to you, and I don't understand why you're being so contentious.
I'm not being contentious. I'm just like we wrote a letter before, and we could have gotten this information, but we didn't know.
You had Ms. Murray respond to you, you had Lauren respond to you, and again, it's just a constant pushback.
Okay, point of order, Mr. Grady and Mr. Orman. We will do our duty according to the rules of the state of Massachusetts and how we're supposed to respond to information. And if you give us information and we can respond to it, then we will. We do not.
Well, what about Carolyn though? Because Carolyn could have helped out a month ago. Well, Carolyn, can you respond within a week?
I'm just going to jump in here and say something. I don't, you know, I have seen all the materials that have been submitted. I didn't actually get brought into this until last week.
Okay.
Okay. So, I mean, I wasn't, you know, and it is highly unusual. My client is the Cohasset Planning Board. It is highly unusual for me to have direct contact with an applicant because my duty is not to provide advice to you. My duty is to provide advice to the board. Be that as it may, if you can commit to getting, you know, the title search information to us, if we're talking about having this to the board by April 6th, I think we need at least a week prior to that to review it. So that's basically bringing to March 30th. I will just say from my experience having to get title searches done, I think that's cutting it a little bit close to make an April 13th meeting.
You recommend that we extend it to the next planning meeting?
It might make more sense to me if your next meeting then is the 27th of April, I'm guessing, if you're meeting every 2 weeks. Correct. That my guess is that gives the applicant sufficient time to have a title search done and sufficient time to get it to us and then also to get it back to the planning board.
Well, wait a second. I think maybe we keep the April 13th, and if we can't hit it, then you can extend, right?
You could try that as well.
Yeah, let's just do that because I think we'll be able to get it because I think it's better to get feedback from you sooner than later, I think. So,
okay.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate your patience here.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And
just a quick comment. I just want to make a quick comment. I went on to the Norfolk County Registry of Deeds, typed in Lambert's Lane and Cohasset, and came up with a couple of dozen plans that are on file there, going back to 1872. And the reality is the town's attorney really isn't supposed to do that, or members of the board. You should your plan should be based on what you find on record at the Registry of Deeds. And to do the research, the surveyor doesn't have to be, there's no licensed title examiner, but lawyers do certify title searches sometimes. My sense is,
well, this plan is based
these guys should do their home. You got to do your homework, or
this plan is based.
I'm prepared to just vote not to endorse right now. And please, Ron, don't talk over me. I'm a member of the board.
Oh, I'm sorry. I mean,
I'm prepared to vote to not endorse on this plan right now, based on what I see and based on the disorganization of the applicant and understanding the relevant issues and talking back to members of the board and our attorney.
I would second that.
So I'll make a motion right now that the planning board not endorse the A&R plan submitted dated 14th of March, 2022.
I second.
Roll call vote. Clark Brewer.
Aye.
Tom Callahan.
Aye.
Paul Colleary.
I'm going to abstain. You don't need my
vote. Right. I'm sorry. Paul Grady.
Paul Grady, aye.
Eric Potter.
Nay, I'd give him the extra time.
Amy Glassmeyer, aye.
What does that mean?
You're going to have to figure it out with your attorneys, pal.
So what do? I have to resubmit another A&R plan?
Yes.
Mr. Orman, if I may say, the burden of proof is on you to prove that you have frontage on Lambert's Lane. It's not for Brian Joyce, Carolyn Murray, or anybody in Town Hall to do that work for you. With all due respect, you don't have the expertise amongst this team to show that.
Well, that's what I thought. I asked Rod to do our surveyor.
If I could say something, I'm not sure.
You know, Rod, with all due respect.
Take it offline, guys. Take it offline. Figure it out.
Point of order. Mr. Callahan is speaking.
Rod can draw the plan based on plans of the deeds and everything. He's done his job. He's not a lawyer about a title search to prove frontage. You need the expertise to do that.
Okay.
And that's what you haven't done up to this point, which Mr. Brewer is pointing out. But the burden of proof is on you. It's not on us to help you prove your case. You have to show us you have legal frontage on Lambert's Lane, and that means researching the titles of the properties, as Attorney Murray has pointed out, of your neighbor as well, because your neighbor may own that strip of land that's between the road and your property line. But you have to find the layout of the road. You have to see if the town really did take it as a public road 100 years ago. I don't know that. We have an interim town clerk filling it. I don't know that she knows that. So you have to do this.
I'm sorry. I would ask the board if they can vote again and give us a little bit of flexibility here, because it's the first time.
I'm afraid that we cannot rescind a vote once taken. But in many ways, this is actually going to be better for you, because you're going to start with a clean slate. You're going to have the original information, and we can build up the case from there. We will not be having pieces of information coming in at irregular times. So please work with your professionals to put it together in toto, so that when we look at it, we have everything we need to help you make a decision and to be successful. So thank you very much.
Oh, wait, can we look at the shared driveway plan as well while we're here?
No, there's no shared driveway until we have the ability to establish the frontage. Until Mr. Callahan?
Well, in the interest of saving time, the recent letters said that Assistant Chief Doc Ray has signed off on the turning ratio in this common driveway. Is that in writing? Do we have that from Chief Doc Ray?
I don't have that in writing.
Okay. I met with him in person, and he went over.
I'm sorry, we can't take Mr. Orman's word for anything. He's misconstrued a bunch of town officials' information, so we really need to hear directly from him.
I bring it up simply to, we can't proceed with the common driveway application because there's no place to put a common driveway legally at this point. But in the interest of time, if you're going to make representations that town officials have said something, done something, it needs to be in writing, or, Doc Ray has been here at our last hearing. He can be brought here again, but, we can't just take it on representations. I'm sorry.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Callahan. Mr. Grady?
No, I just think that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Orman's other representative?
Simply this, if you might, maybe the board was going to address this, but in addition to the questions that Mr. Brewer has brought up regarding the frontage, and it seems to be the main point now, are there any other concerns with the A&R lots so we can be curing everything at once if we can? If you understand what I mean, not go 2 weeks.
Unfortunately, let me speak, Tom. Unfortunately, we don't have sufficient information to give you that assurance. We just can't do that. You need to compile the story in one complete set of documents so that we can look at them all together and not have them come in little pieces. So compile a full case with all of the elements that are necessary. And if you need to have professional assistance to ensure that you do have the documentation, by all means, please get it, because it's just causing you more time and effort without having somebody who knows exactly how to put something like this together and be successful. You need a lawyer who is leading you.
Well, what about the other side, the left side of the lot, where there's an encroachment of the road onto 26 Lambert's Lane? We were trying to find out how to handle that, and we didn't get any feedback.
Well, we can't give you any feedback. Our job is not to give you feedback. Your job is to present to us a complete and accurate picture from which we can help make a decision. And until we receive that, we can't do anything further.
Well, who would make the decision on the encroachment of Lambert's Lane?
That is something that you have to determine.
With who, though? Who in Cohasset?
That would be part of the title search and the investigation of the site.
Well, yeah, I would recommend that a resolution to the easement needs to be decided, and if there's a taking by the town of his property or an exchange, that would have to be fully engineered by the applicant and then voted on at town meeting.
Okay, so what about?
But there may be an easement. There may be an easement issue that's an easier fix. But that's the way I see it. I see it as a voted meeting.
Can I just step in? I'm just kind of a
point of order. Mr. Grady had his hands up first.
Sorry, Paul.
No, go ahead, Eric. I want to hear what you have to say.
Well, I wasn't at the last meeting, but I was wondering why there was a little bit of frustration at the outset with this particular applicant, but I'm starting to pick things up now. I just think that, like everyone has said, it's not the board's job to advise or counsel or direct the applicant with regards to an application. It's the applicant's job to make their argument and then for us to analyze everything. I think it's been said a number of times that at this point, I think you've got to retain professional counsel in the form of an attorney. They're going to know the steps you need to take in order to submit an application that satisfies the board and makes your argument to us, not for us to be a collaborative effort. And I think it's very clear. And everyone has said the same thing.
We just had a question on you have your attorney.
We cannot answer any questions in the form of advice. It's just not our job. We don't have the responsibility or the authority to do so. Mr. Grady.
That's the impression. The impression from the last meeting and this meeting is that, Mr. Orman, you're looking for us to do your work for you, and we can't.
I just don't know what the procedures are.
Can I finish, please? When people come up before us, they present their plans, they're complete, we look at them, they come up with their lighting fixtures or anything along those lines, things like that. But this has been piecemeal. It's been a time waster from the get-go. So I suggest that you take Clark's suggestion and come back with a complete package, sit down in front of the board and start all over again.
All right, thank you.
With your ducks in a row.
Thank you for the summary. Mr. Callahan.
I want to try to be helpful here, but without knowing what the layout of Lambert's Lane is, we don't even know what the extent of the encroachment into your property is. The town may have gained prescriptive rights, making the issue of an easement moot, but could it be formalized?
Mr. Callahan, we are not supposed to provide information on behalf, right? We're really not supposed to do that.
No,
so
but
thank you.
So in answer to Ms.
We contacted the DPW and they said they didn't know what to do either.
No, the DPW is not to provide you. This is like turning in your dissertation. You wrote it, you typed it, and it goes into the university and you're finished. So we can't touch anything until it comes to us in that form. So I'm going to close this discussion at this point because we cannot help you any further. We look forward to seeing you before us again. And Ms. Lynn?
I'm sorry, I have a procedural question for our council. In terms of the Common Drive application, is there a continuance? Does the applicant need to request a withdrawal? How do we proceed?
Thanks for bringing that up, Lauren. I think under the circumstances, it makes more sense to allow the applicant to withdraw the common driveway application. And when they're ready to come back with their A&R plan, they can submit a revised common driveway, or they can resubmit their common driveway plan at that time. Because otherwise, I think the only other option for the board is going to be to deny the common driveway, which would then have a 2-year prohibition against that coming back. So my suggestion would be that the applicant request to withdraw the common driveway and we reconsider it all again with the A&R as a package.
All right, Mr. Orman, do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah,
so would you like to withdraw?
Yeah, so if I withdraw, I'm allowed to apply again when I apply for the A&R at the same time?
Yes, you are.
Great, yeah, that's fine, thank you.
All right, so do we need to vote on that in any way?
You do, yes.
All right, so can I get a motion from one of the board members?
Motion to accept
motion to vote on Mr. Orman's withdrawal.
I'm going to get a second, please.
Second.
Clark Brewer.
Clark Brewer, aye.
Tom Callahan.
Aye.
Paul Grady.
Aye.
Eric Potter.
Aye.
Amy Glassmeyer, aye. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Have a great evening, everybody.
You too.
Aye, Mr. Orman.
Yep, take care.
All right, so let's, so that ends the business portion of our meeting. And what we have at this point then is administrative work here, committee liaison updates, planning director updates, items not anticipated 48 hours in advance, approval of meeting minutes. So I'm going to ask first, Lauren, do we have meeting minutes that we should approve?
I don't have any meeting minutes that have been circulated, so we'll defer that to the next meeting.
All right, thank you. Then actually, we have, so my understanding is we are still in the conversation around the common driveway. And does that come under committee liaison updates? Lauren, please advise.
Sorry, yes, that is actually an open public hearing that's continued that we're going to, I believe that's what you're referencing anyway, the amendment to the bylaws. Yes, so that's an open public hearing. It's scheduled to continue at our next meeting. So we shouldn't discuss that at this time because it's an open public hearing and we're not in that session.
All right, thank you. So then we will go to committee liaison updates. Ms. Lind?
Sorry, just one more comment though. If anyone has anything else that they want to comment on or add to that discussion, please send it to me and I'll distribute it to everyone.
Okay, so we're asking for additional comments on the continuation of the public hearing on common driveway.
Yes.
Right, thank you. All right, committee liaison. Let's see, what's the alphabetical order here? We typically start with well, I think I will allow Ms. Lind first to provide her updates. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. First, I will announce to the board that on Monday, we officially started our new assistant town planner. Her name is Cassandra Thayer. So I'm very delighted to have some more capacity and to have another new office mate. So I welcome you all at your convenience to come into town hall and meet her. She's great. She will be primarily supporting the zoning board and will also be supporting harbor committee, master plan implementation, and different sort of, departmental support. So you won't see her too often at planning board meetings, but she'll be here, she'll be around and involved in different things. So with that, I'll quickly run down.
One question, is it Cassandra or Cassandra?
Cassandra. She'll tell you you can call her either, though, as long as it's not Cassie.
Yes, got it. Thank you.
Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you.
I heard people were worried you were talking to yourself in the office, so this is good to have somebody in the office.
Yeah, I haven't lost all that much sanity yet. So,
all right.
Quickly then, I'll run through my meeting just quickly. Affordable Housing Steering Committee, nothing really new substantial there, sort of updates and they're planning fiscal year 23 goal setting. Affordable Housing Trust is in process. They were before the select board last night for our annual town meeting article for 2 parcels of land that they're asking to be transferred into the trust. So that'll be before you all soon, or this, it's not zoning, so it won't become before planning board, but you'll hear about it. I'll say that the Harbor Committee continues through their working group, continues to work on the Harbor Climate Series Summit. We're targeting April 11th, I believe, for the second forum. So I'll keep you all abreast of that information as soon as it's finalized. The Captain's Walk also survey continues to progress. That's another big ticket item that that group has been working on. We have next master plan implementation committee meeting is April 4th. The larger group took a little bit of a hiatus because there's been so much working group activity, because I know zoning bylaw working group, I won't steal too much thunder, but they've been continuing to work in the midst of the RFQ bid process. We did receive 1 bid response and we're working through preparing to interview that firm. So we'll again keep you up on that. And then the Elm Street Corridor Working Group, we've been in a bit of a holding pattern while we're waiting for additional information. Right now, I did receive, we have Kittleson, a different engineering firm that we had been reaching out with, looking for potential grant opportunities. The ones that we explored were not going to be a fit for this program, but they did at least, they're going to assist us through some cost estimating that'll help us get that refined cost estimate to help us with next steps. So once we have, again, that key piece of information, then we can return back to the board to resume the conversation that we had last time.
Is that all you've been working on? I'm teasing. I'm teasing.
I'm sure I missed something, but that's all for now. Well, I did a major archive program.
Days, right? All right. So I will now turn to the zoning board working group and Mr. Callahan.
Thank you. Before I get to what the working group's been up to, an important thing that I hope everybody's aware of by now, but the state passed a law about having a as of right multifamily district within a half-mile radius of train stations. It has many requirements, but basically the way it's written at the moment. So now the regulations have come out to implement that legislation. And it would require Cohasset to have a minimum of 750 multifamily units, which is more than a quarter of our current total housing stock. So obviously this is the regulations are in the comment period. All the communities in the state are getting their comments, and yeah, Lauren, correct. The selectmen are going to take it up when? I think at their next meeting.
I'm glad you brought that up. See, I knew I forgot something that I was working on. I'm just finishing up my PowerPoint this afternoon. Yeah. I will be presenting to the select board on Tuesday about this and asking for a comment letter because the comment period closes on the 31st. So I will also keep all of you informed of that. I'll circulate it. It's going to go out on select board packets on Friday, and I'll distribute it to all of the other committees as well for information.
Yeah. And I think, you know, I was going to bring it up for the point of that members of this board, I think we should show up at the select board meeting by Zoom, perhaps comment, and, you know, after we see the draft of the letter. I've been cautioning people not for the town and not to come off too anti and snobby about this, because that's the reason the state's doing it, is towns like ours aren't doing enough. So, but it's onerous in the way it's written, but if they get reasonable and you can count existing units that you may have, and if they recognize we can't draw a perfect half-mile circle, but we could draw an oblong district down 3A, it might not, in the end of the day, be the end of the world for us. But at 750 units, it is certainly the end of the world. So I'd urge everybody to try to sit in on the select board meeting on Tuesday. The working group is moving forward. We have started on the reorganization of the bylaw, which is step one. We have settled on a form at the moment, which is based on Concord's bylaw, and it would reduce our 22 articles to 10. And a lot of that is just by consolidating. And then our first step has just been to move our current bylaw into this new format. No substantive changes, but right now we're looking at our current bylaw, just reorganized and things moved around into more logical order. But we are starting to look at a proposed new table of uses, and we are in sort of an ongoing process of looking at old definitions, new definitions, what can stay, what can go, what do we need, consolidating them where they're definitions right now throughout the bylaw in different articles, consolidating them all in one place. So we're moving ahead. The consultant, as Lauren said, we got one response. You know, so the interview process for them is going to start, and it looks like it's a solid firm with capabilities. They've done this before, helped other communities do that. So that'll be a big help for us to present this to the community once we have some substance to give you. So we're still meeting roughly every 2 weeks, and we're really going at it right now. So that's our update.
All right, thank you. Mr. Grady?
Well, I couldn't attend Monday's meeting because I was working. The Monday before that, though, we're helping out the Affordable Housing Committee. Lauren, you're on that, right? I think it was Steve Gomer. They're looking for the release of some funds to build up their balance to hit up those parcels that you're talking about. And they want to look like they're in a good financial shape. So we're on board with that. Releasing it as a in parcels, not a whole big chunk of change, but releasing it to build up the balance so they have it and it shows. And you know, it's a very nice thing, I think. That's why I have to support with CBC. I think we're putting in a couple of railings some places too. Feeling pretty good about that.
Full of railings?
Railings up at the high school. Much needed, I guess. People have slipped and fallen, so
okay.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Mr. Brewer?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on our brief discussion about the Elm Street corridor. That at what Lauren is working on getting a cost estimate and design development engineer on boarded, so that we can evaluate options. But I guess I was wanted to express a concern that Lauren just showed us the most impactful part of the design, which is the triangle and the potential rerouting of roadways. But there's that's an important part, but also fixing the 80-foot distance of asphalt in front of the Legion and the War Memorial, and the connection that it makes between the harbor and the village is of utmost importance, and was a critical recommendation for the master plan. And I know Paul Grady said he doesn't really like a project that just benefits a couple of people and developers. But I really think if we look at the whole project and it gets developed a little bit more, I'd suggest and like to keep to recommend that everyone keep an open mind about how this can benefit the town, all the town and townspeople long term. And it's really a project that had its original thinking going back 50 years when there was a taking on the south side of Elm Street in order to make a boulevard down Elm Street. But now we have an opportunity to make a pedestrian and bike connection that's sorely needed to make that physical connection much better, and to slow down the traffic, because our 40-foot wide asphalt means everybody drives through at 40 miles an hour, or maybe more. But again, I'd like everyone to keep an open mind, but the project will need the planning board's a recommendation on how to proceed and what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. So again, I'd like to recommend everyone keep an open mind about this.
Mr. Grady?
Well, since I was brought into the conversation and my opinion still stands, my open mind, or having an open mind, would be exponentially better if I saw improvements going around in other parts of town, maybe some sidewalks. You talk about the bike paths from Elm Street to there, and I still stand that Elm Street is improving, the Cohasset, the condominium, whatever project's going in Atlantica, and then we're going to have to look at parking, because I've heard a couple of things on that. But if we start looking at some of the infrastructure in other parts of town, I'd be more inclined to support Elm Street. I think it's a nice project. I think people have worked very hard on it. But then again, when I look at the roads and the streets, the sidewalks, and all the other parts of town, I'm not too keen on it at this point. But as I said, Clark, I have an open mind. But I'd like to see some improvements first. You're more than welcome.
So I'd like to make, just a minute, Ms. Linda, I'd like to make one comment, which is, I want us to remember that Ms. Dugan did come before us and explain a strategy for trying to start to develop sidewalks. So we have in fact got people with attention to sidewalks, and it's already been stated to us as part of our discussion. If we would like to invite her back and we could ask how, what kind of progress has been made, I think that's just a fine thing to do. But I don't want us to think that we're not actually concerned about sidewalks, or that we don't have specific hierarchy of where will the sidewalks be built. So we do have at least a 3-level strategy for sidewalks in town. So maybe we should have her back. But thanks, Paul.
Lauren might be able to give us an update, but the end of Sawyer Street is one that's been worked on for a number of years, and it's going through permitting now.
That's what I wanted to update on. We're actually
3A from Fair Oaks.
We're working on Sawyer Street connection so that we can connect from the 3A area also along the schools and make a contiguous sidewalk. So that's also in the works, but there's just not a working group for it.
Right. But you know, maybe we should have an update about that, because I know that for many people, sidewalks are absolutely essential.
And just one more thing related to that is the 3A corridor improvements from Beechwood to the Henry Beetle Bailey Turner turnoff in Scituate. That's one that is in the works. It's been delayed, but it is a transformative project that's being funded by the state, as well as Lauren can tell us that about the north section, which really needs pedestrian facilities, is being looked at a preliminary design standpoint by an engineering team. So, I mean, the good news is there are plenty of infrastructure problems to solve and pay for, and deciding what's the most critical and what you get most value per dollar for is an important thing to hash through.
I would say potholes, degraded roads, flat tires, things like that, sidewalks where kids can't move. That to me would be a priority. So,
well, so we can take those things up, but
I just want to remind everybody again, I've done this before, is that the redesign of the intersection in front of the hotel project is part of our permit. And it's to soften the impact of that development to the rest of the community. That's our main interest, and we shouldn't lose focus of that. That's being done for the benefit of the community to soften the impact of that new development.
And the community's paying for it, right?
Our objective is to get to the point where
we extracted some money from the developer by agreement in the decision. It's not a lot. It's probably a drop in the bucket, but it's public property. It's not their property. So we don't have linkage provisions that, like Boston does, that would allow them to pick up the tab. So we have to deal with the cards we're dealt. But
we also don't have a performance bond either, but that's putting the car before the horse, I suppose.
There's also grant money that is available. We did get turned down, as Lauren has reminded us, on the first round, but there is grant money available in multiple rounds. So when this project is figured out and shovel ready design wise, that those can be applied for again.
And that's really what we as a town have to contribute to it. Just a minute. Tom, Dolce needs out. Sorry, dog. Okay, so let's see. There's a question of the Open Space Committee. And
did Tim want to comment about? Did Tim want to make a comment?
Yes, he does. Mr. Davis.
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you all for considering this. I'm speaking on behalf of the Elm Street Corridor Working Group. As you probably know, the Cohasset community has for many, many years been working on and supporting a revitalization of Elm Street as a critical corridor between the village and the harbor. It has been listed as a priority in both the Cohasset Master Plan and the Cohasset Municipal Harbor Plan. We have support of the community in Elm Street for this project. We have support of the Harbor Committee. We have support of the Cohasset Harbor Infrastructure Planning Committee. All have written letters in support of this project. We fully recognize that the cost is a critical issue and the funding sources are critical issues. And also I can say that we do not yet have a final plan. We have been accepting input from many people in the community, including people that are not on Elm Street, but who use Elm Street. And we've been listening to that and trying to accept what they're saying and to integrate it into the planning process. We also know, I know as chair of the Harbor Committee, that we have other infrastructure concerns that are also priority. Margin Street floods in a high tide. Border Street occasionally floods. We've got issues on access to the harbor for the community. All these things are important and are critical and are priorities. So all I would do tonight is ask for your continued support for this project, and we will work with you. If you have issues, let us know. If you have concerns, let us know. but it is a priority of the community to get this done. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you. I raised the question of the Open Space Committee. Mr. Potter?
So I just wanted to provide an update here because I stepped down just recently from the Open Space Committee, and I actually wanted to make it public record and let everybody know on the planning board that I haven't spoken to that I won't be running for another term. It's been a fantastic run for me. I think it's 6 or 7 years up in May. But, you know, I'm at a point just now in stage of life where, you know, focusing on my family and my boys and my career and my own health is probably taking a little bit of more precedent. Time is so precious. And I do hope that someday I will be on the planning board again or another board in town because I really have gained a lot out of this. And if there's one thing I've learned and one piece of advice, I think and the reason why I gave it a lot of thought before deciding not to run again was if I do run for a board again, I'd ask myself the question, would I have the ability to commit to being a chairman or a chairperson of that board? Not that necessarily that means I'd have to be, but I'd want to be able to say yes to that question so that I could commit to all the other board members and commit to the citizens and put my all into it. And when I ask myself that question right now, the answer is no. So that's really the reason why I'm not going to be running for the next term. And that's also the reason why I told Paul that, you know, I was going to step down from the Open Space Committee, you know, before the end of my time in May there. So, you know, I haven't spoken to really anyone on the board themselves to let you guys know that as well. But I thought this was a good opportunity with Open Space coming up to at least let everyone know of my decision and of my hope someday to be back with all of you guys here again. But that's my update for right now.
On behalf of the planning board, and I think all of us that have served with you, it's been a good run, and you have been a faithful servant of the town. And it will be great to see you back in some kind of saddle when the time comes. So it's nice of you to say this. And because you stepped down from the Open Space Committee, I think I will pick up that responsibility because the Economic Development Group is in a position of trying to configure itself in a manner to move forward. And so it's not really asking a lot of me and my responsibilities. So I will sort of pick that up from you, Eric, and I'll probably give you a call and try to figure out what it is that I need to know in order to be able to be on that committee.
If everybody hasn't heard, Peter Pescatori is stepping down from the Open Space Committee as well as the Zoning Working Group. And, you know, he has been the engine that has run that committee. And when I got involved a couple of years ago, getting the current open space plan done, and it has, you know, a 7-year plan of priorities and projects. So, you know, his leadership is going to be sorely missed. And you know, I hope whoever's on that committee, especially including our representative, Amy, you know, will help to pick up the slack to make sure that that open space plan just doesn't fall by the wayside.
Thank you. What about CPC?
I just talked about that.
No, but is what is going to happen, because Peter was also the chair of that.
No, he isn't.
No, he's not.
Okay. No, Russ is. Sorry. Okay, that's good. All right. So, do we have any information items to be discussed 48 hours in advance? Mr. Callahan.
I hear that One Pleasant Street has been sold. I just looked at the Registry of Deeds. I saw a municipal lien certificate recorded Tuesday, which is usually the precursor, but I don't see a deed yet. But I just think as a matter of regular practice, when a property that's permitted like that, you know, has an active permit, we should just make a good practice for John to reach out to the new owners to make sure they're on top of what the requirements of that permit are. You know, I think that in any case in the future when that happens.
Right, thank you. Ms. Lind?
I just want to give an update that we've confirmed that whomever purchased the new property, I'm not aware of who it is, but they plan to proceed as they were permitted under planning board redevelopment. So they're not looking to go back to the drawing board, and they have filed for a demolition permit. So that is progressing and moving forward. So I can, if you want any more details, I can ask John Hallen.
Yeah,
for an update.
Right, thank you. Mr. Grady?
So maybe Lauren put my mind at rest a little bit. So since it's the same owner as 2 Smith, he has no plans up in the future for that John Hallen should be aware of, because my neighbor was told that he's looking to clear out that whole field. And now hopefully I'm wrong, and hopefully
heard anything to that
or
effect
she got
yet.
the wrong advice. I just wouldn't want to see a bunch of clear cutting out of the blue, regardless.
Anything at this point now would be the clear cutting bylaw would be in effect. That's been in effect for quite some time, as well as also one more announcement. I sent this to the board, but just to say it in a public meeting, the Attorney General approved the ledge protection bylaw from a meeting. So both of those things would be in effect for any new development that came forward.
No, Lauren, if you could make John Hallen aware of that, just in case. I just, that was a protracted case, the 2 Smith. I was speaking personally on that one. But right. That, again, that's all I'm asking about that.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Grady. One thing that I would like to ask is, Ms. Murray, the ledge removal bylaw is on the surface a great advancement with regard to the changes taking place in town and the landscape transformations occurring. But it is really questionable as to what it will in fact be able to do. And I'm wondering if it's worthwhile having you take a look at it and give us a sense of what can we do with that new regulation, because we are staring down a number of projects that are going to have a likelihood of a basement project, part of a building, as well as other areas within properties where they're going to be removing ledge. And so having something that's crystal clear as to what is and what isn't appropriate would be helpful to us.
I'd be happy to look at it, Madam Chair.
The ledge bylaw has exclusions for a house and a garage, stuff like that. But but not for other types of things. But no criteria.
Right.
Very simply, for the house and the utilities, you need, a septic system or something. You get to remove ledge on the surface. First of all, it only protects what's on the surface and visible. And then everything else on the property that's not connected with the construction of the house and its utilities is not to be touched, period. That's the criteria, that's the standard.
Okay, so I would request then, Tom, that, I still feel that
it's pretty clear.
It may be clear, but I can assure you, if you come up on Howe Road, there are 3 lots that have a very large amount of ledge that is going to be cleared, and that even if it's because of the fact that when they are putting in a basement, that is going to enable them to take a lot of the ledge out to be able to put that particular part of the structure in. And as they're doing it, they're going to find it difficult to stop, at edges. If you just come and look at the site and think about what you would feel you were going to be able to say should not be touched, because I think that we may have one sense of what we think it's going to do, and that it actually applies in a different way. That the consequence may be that we have very little effect.
But to not be touched, I'm sorry, but to not be touched, don't you mean to not be touched without a special permit, Tom?
Correct.
I mean, if the goal was to not touch any ledge unless you have to build a house or put in utilities, that would have been a different bylaw.
And with respect to, if you have a site that has a lot of ledge, the bylaw will lead hopefully to a discussion about, you know, where is the house going to be sited? Must it be sited in a spot where it's going to take out a lot of visible ledge? Maybe it has to. And so the bylaw created an exception that if you're building your house and you need to take out ledge, you can do it. We made that compromise, you know, and that's what it is.
But does each instance of ledge removal require a special permit?
Yes.
All right, so then that means that the sites on Tad Lane and Howe Road need to have special permits.
But I thought it would, the trigger was if you were building a house, then you wouldn't have to come in for a special permit. Not, and for the other areas, if you had to do ledge removal.
Well, needless to say, the reason I just want us to have a very firm understanding of exactly what this does, so that both when we're driving around town, but also when we're discussing it with a applicant as an example, that we're all on the same page and we all understand exactly what it means.
Amy, I think your recommendation to have council take a look at it was apt at this point. Maybe would you follow up with her in a couple of weeks?
Yeah. And if Mr. Murray would like to come by, I would give you a tour of some of the places where we're going to see ledge
I'm familiar
be
with
removed.
some of the ones you mentioned.
I don't think you've been around Cohasset Ledge enough. Okay.
I have driven by one in particular, yes.
Yes. Okay. So Lauren, would you like to give us an update on what's coming up in our next meetings?
So our next meeting is March 30th.
At least the next one meeting.
Yes, our next meeting is March 30th. We will continue the large house review for 270 Jerusalem Road. We will continue the discussion on the scenic roads retroactive situation going on at 580 Jerusalem Road. I will let you know that we did get a quote from the Cohasset DPW on an estimate for replacement trees. So I'll send that around for you when I give you your packets. We also have the continuation of the common drive and access regulations bylaws. At this time, I think that's all we have for the 30th. And then our next meeting will be April 14th. And we have 3 incoming large house review applications for that, new applications, which I believe, if I'm recalling correctly, 205 Atlantic, 90 Howard Gleason Road, and there's another one that's escaping me. 66 Jerusalem is the other one, yes.
Yeah.
The other thing, I'm sorry. The other thing we've been in receipt of, we've received the application now for 46 Border Street, which is the Atlantica and Lobster Pound, the 2 sites there. We've received the application. Conservation has received the application, as well as Zoning Board. So once I process that, I'll determine when that application will start. I do need to flag that. I think we need to be mindful of when that application starts, of course, the timeline, but also because we may have a switch over in members, and because it's a special permit, we want to make sure we have a full board able to sit on that. So we'll take a look at that. Or actually, I'm sorry, that's a site plan. That's
we just have site plan.
Yeah, we just have site plan. I'm sorry, confusing. It's been a long week already.
Yeah, really. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Grady.
If I make a motion to close, I think we've wrapped this up. This has been good.
I want to just make sure we have everything done.
Yes.
Second. All right.
Second this motion.
Okay, thank you. Roll call. Mr. Brewer.
Mark Brewer, aye.
Mr. Callahan.
Aye.
Mr. Grady.
Mr. Grady, aye. Paul.
Mr. Potter.
Aye.
Eric, we're going to miss you.
Aye.
Thanks, Paul.
But stay around till we're done, till you're done in your time.
I will.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you much, Carolyn. That was very helpful tonight. And we'll see you. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Angela, wherever you are.
Thanks, everyone.
See you in a couple weeks.
Bye.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Night.